Wowzers. Boo. We're live. Hope I didn't scare you too much. I'm sorry. Hello and welcome to another Good Morning Source Gaming. Unless you're 2/3 of the cast today, in which case it's not.
Yeah, it's our afternoon, but I've still got a coffee. I'm still in the theming of it.
You got that corn muffin on standby. We didn't do one last week because we were very busy with our Zelda 2 and Zelda CDI video plans. Even though last week was a very eventful just week in general. Whoops. So better late than never, I guess. So we're just going to this is just going to be a big one where we just talk about 2 whole weeks of sitting around doing nothing and playing video games and all that. Is me. I'm Colin. I'm joined by Nantenjex.
Everyone.
And today, for the first time ever, never before featured in a YouTube video, is Jon Cartwright of Game Explain.
This is my origin story. How do I talk? How do I do this?
I almost wanted to call you Nintendo Insider, but I want to let that meme die for your sake. I don't want to. I don't want to. That'd
Let's
be like
clear of that today.
Yes, let's.
Someone in on Twitter was like, "Is this a new podcast by Source Gaming?" Yes, 42 episodes in, brand new.
We need to spread it further. We need a subreddit.
It is actually kind of weird if you think about it. We have been doing this for nearly 2 years now. At the very least, a year and a half. Like even though it's
podcast that we ran.
Yeah, even though this is like 42 episodes, skip a few weeks. Like if we were actually on top of everything we did, we'd be at like episode 190 something.
It's good to have breaks. It's good to break things up, especially in the holiday period. But
especially with how busy everyone has been, going out, enjoying life to the fullest, not having to worry about the plague.
Well, at least keeping us inside has given us a bit more time for, I guess, games. At least with my 40 minutes back of commute, I can.
Thank you to Schnitzel from Chowder for $5. He says, "Firstly, sorry, Mr. Cartwright, for some horribly misinformed slander I threw your way last year, no matter how brief."
Episode 1 of the music show was good.
Oh, thank you. Was that about the Grinch stuff, I imagine?
Probably.
No, I accept your apology. Thank you.
I feel like any sort of big, massive, misinformed slander is always going to be around the Grinch stuff, at least for the next foreseeable future, at least until Smash is done.
I mean, you can be right about something, and there will still be horribly misinformed slander.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
The Grinch was just a terrible mess of man. I told you the story, Nan, of when that Smash stream was going on. I was actually in Florida that entire week. Were you on that episode with the where we explained the Grinch leak afterwards? Like after,
probably. It was like a year and a half ago now, wasn't it?
No, I think it was me, Push, Phantom, and I don't know if it was Matt or someone else. But basically, I was in Florida, Orlando, Florida, that entire week when that Smash Direct went live. And I actually had planned, because if you go to Seussland in Universal Studios, they usually have a guy dressed up as the Grinch kind of walking around. And I really wanted to take a video of me being like, "Hey, thanks for leaking the Smash roster." I'm really glad in hindsight I didn't do that, because that would have been... I would have gotten a lot of Twitter clout, but it wouldn't have been worth it.
I just saw a comment in the chat saying they're ashamed to have believed it. I don't blame anyone for believing it.
Yeah, no, I don't... That's... There seems to be a big source of contention over whether or not you should feel bad for believing it. The answer is no. You should feel bad if you were, like, threatening people. Overrated.
Like, believing in the leak is fine. Believing in any leak is fine. It's when you take that belief to such an extent that you start sending people messages, like spamming people with like hateful comments and stuff
Yeah.
just because they don't believe it or they believe in something else.
We're all like paid
That's where the
shills
problem
by
came.
Nintendo, who clearly know everything going on.
Yeah.
But enough about how we make our day-to-day checks. What video games have we all been playing? We'll start off with our special boy of the hour, John.
I can barely remember what day it is, so it's. I'm glad we're covering the last 2 weeks because a lot of games have come out recently. I
Yes.
played Doom Eternal.
Ooh.
I played Resident Evil 3,
Ooh.
Animal Crossing, and was Ori? Ori was back in March now, wasn't it?
Yes, it
Ori
was.
and the Will of the Wisp was beginning of March, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
or
it
the
was
end
like
of
the
February.
second or third or something. It was very early on.
Am I the only one in this panel who's played Resident Evil 3?
You have. I actually only just beat Resident Evil 2 like 2 weeks ago, so I didn't want to just jump straight into 3.
I actually canceled my pre-order.
Ooh.
That was
Why
actually
was that?
It was actually because A, saving money, and B, it was for the Xbox version, and I was like, everyone I know is going to be buying it on PC, so what am I doing? So I'll get it on sale later on. I'm looking forward to it. I really like the demo. I know there seems to be a bit of a mixed reception to that game because it plays a little less like RE2 make and plays more like it plays almost like a Revelations 2 chapter and is also as long as a Revelations 2 chapter.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
But when you say it had a mixed reception, that's the exact score I gave it on Game Explain. That's basically our right in the middle rating. And it's fine, but it's nothing really more than that. And I think the problem is when you're remaking something with the legacy of Resident Evil 3, you've got to be better than just fine. And, there's a lot of things that it just doesn't get quite right. Like, Resident Evil 2 Remake kind of swapped the roles with 3, where Mr. X was the constant stalker. But Nemesis in the 3 Remake is almost like an Uncharted-style set piece that just appears when the story needs him to. So he's not imposing. It's just strange.
Yeah.
And one other weird thing is the streets of Raccoon City, what you play in the demo, is all of it. Like, there's no more streets apart from that.
Which is weird because they were like, there's way more Raccoon City in this game than there is in RE2 make. But then, no, not really. At least from what I've heard.
I mean, it seemed really strange to me that Resi 2 only came out last year.
Yeah.
And to already pump Resi 3 out.
Well, isn't this a different team?
Felt very...
It's a B team, yeah. It's
Yeah,
done
it's a
by
B team.
M2, but like not the Sega M2. It's spelled MTWO.
Okay, make that easy. Yeah, I mean, because it also comes with Resident Evil Resistance, that co-op game part of it. Which is that? I heard that's in beta still, which seems a bit strange.
I think it might be out now. I've not really tried it much myself, but it's what I played was fine, but nothing I really want to play.
I played it back during New York Comic Con. I played like a demo of it, and I had a really good time. Phantom and I actually played it. He was the mastermind. I was the hacker grill, and we had like a really good time because we had really good team comp, and Phantom isn't a good mastermind, so like we were just kind of speeding through that demo. But this week, the open beta went out, and over the weekend, like, it was supposed to be up during the weekend, but then they were like, oh, technical issues, so we're pushing it to Monday. So I played it on Monday, and it was horrible. Like, it was such a buggy... It was buggier than the demo I played back in October.
Oh, wow.
That's
it was
strange.
It wasn't detecting my mouse for some reason, so I had to fiddle with my mouse a bunch of times to get it to even pick up. You can't do push-to-talk voice chat. It would just drop in frames randomly at times. And then the fun part was when it just completely disconnected from the servers, like mid-game. It was really rough, and I was like, this is launching in a week? Less than a week? 5 days?
Yeah, well, it's weird because Resistance was announced first before the RE3 remake.
Yeah.
So you'd have to think that maybe it was in development for a little longer. which kind of, I mean, this is tinfoil hat theory, but I almost wonder if they were working on it as a multiplayer thing and then realized they couldn't sell it on its own. And then they wanted to remake Resi 3 anyway because of how well Resi 2 did. And so just decided to pitch them both together.
Yeah.
But that meant that Resi 3 had to be out within like a certain time frame.
I mean,
and so they just had to do the bare minimal to get it feeling almost like Resi 3.
As far as like the multiplayer focused RE games, it's the least worst.
That's not saying much, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's way better than Umbrella Corps.
Oh god, that game.
I just wish to put more resources into 3 though, because there's some key areas that sort of define the original that aren't in the remake. Like the clock tower, that's this huge part of Resident Evil 3, and it's just a boss arena now. And like the park is cut, Dead Factory's cut, and they replaced it with something that's really similar to Resident Evil 2's final area. I don't see the point of remaking a game you're going to take so much out of what made it unique in the first place. And like 2 had some cuts as well, but they were nowhere near as severe as this. Yeah. And it feels like the most complete Resident Evil remake was the first one, because it took everything that made the original great and expanded upon it rather than cutting from it. And like 2 redefined itself in a remake. That was great. Yeah. But 3 just feels so. It feels like I'm going to look back on this game in a few years' time, and just see it as a total disappointment.
Yeah, because remake 1 is basically just like is almost like a remaster, but like early 2000s definition of a remaster, where they just basically did the whole game over again, but it's still extremely faithful to the original. 2 is like more of a reimagining. 3 is just like, yeah, let's do it again, except you shoot more,
fast.
A lot of shooting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a weird one for me because I actually bought the original PlayStation version of Resi 3. It was the only one I hadn't played, and it's still the only one I haven't played, I should say.
Same.
So I only bought it like half a year ago, before they announced the remake of Resi 3 officially. So I've got this sitting here, and I'm like, when they announced the remake, and I was just like, well, maybe I'll just play the remake then. Which is the same thought I've been having about Final Fantasy VII. Do I play the original or do I play the remake? But after hearing about how much stuff they cut out, I'm almost like, maybe I should just play the PS1 one first instead. It's now more for me a battle of, do I want to deal with the tank controls over the updated gameplay? But then again, I feel like if the original's like got more stuff to it and is sort of seen as the better game, maybe it's worth just plowing through.
I feel like as a general rule, you should always play the original. Maybe that people seem to be very weird about that in regards to video games. Like, no other form of media has this like, no, you should totally watch the remake first. It's like in video games, it's like, nah, dude, it's the graphics are better, or like play that version. Because us in the Half-Life community have that same issue with people going like, don't play Half-Life 1, play Black Mesa. And it's like, well, no. Because Black Mesa is not the groundbreaking landmark title from 1998 that inspired a whole generation of first-person shooters. It's just Half-Life 2 with a Half-Life 1 skin. Like, it's not.
I think it depends on how
really
well
getting out of it.
I think with films, it's because you're just watching it and you're not involved in it, then it doesn't matter. But there's definitely a stigma where people feel certain games that were iconic are slightly outdated now. Like, I mean, Ocarina of Time's a good example. I still love that game, and I know lots of people do, but there are definitely people out there who feel like that game is outdated.
I mean, that's
in how it
definitely
feels. Same for Mario 64.
That's definitely
Like,
it,
there
but
are
it's
people who feel
also,
that is it.
I don't know, I always get into the mindset of like, well, people still, played it. It doesn't really take much to rewire your brain to not follow the same control machinations of other video games, but I digress. I'm getting off my soapbox.
I guess with a lot of games, remakes often redefine themselves from a gameplay perspective. Like Final Fantasy VII Original doesn't seem to play anything like the remake.
Yeah, really.
But the combat system's entirely different, and same with the Resident Evil remakes. So like, they can both coexist just fine. And there's reason to play one over the other, or just play both.
Well, that's why I like well, we can talk about FF7 remake if we have anything to talk about FF7 remake, because whoo boy, there's some things with that. But like, I don't mind things like RE2 make or like the Zen portion of Black Mesa, because those are like so wildly different from the original game that they're basically reimaginings, and you're like, yeah, that's fine. It's a new take. Like that's, but like I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like same thing, new graphics isn't always better.
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes the art style kind of gets tainted along the way too.
Yeah.
Like with the Panzer Dragoon remake, I think it plays fine, but artistically, I still prefer the original. I think that has a much more, I guess, a much more original art style. And nothing really looks like that game, whereas the remake just kind of looks like so many other games.
The Saturn had like spherical models. Like it didn't use polygons. It had like some weird octagon thing. So every Saturn game looks really unique. So then when you transfer that over to like budget polygon art, you're like, oh.
Yeah. It's just not really special anymore.
Yeah.
I think in a Panzer Dragoon has a bit of an advantage that I think the original's not very easy to get a hold of for most people.
Oh yeah, because the Saturn.
Yeah, whereas I feel like Final Fantasy VII and the Resident Evil ones are actually pretty easy, especially like with everyone getting more into retro collecting. I frequently see Final Fantasy VII PS1 on disc in like retro stores and CEX and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like they're far easier to get a hold of, and they sometimes obviously get Final Fantasy VII, even if it's the Steam version, was just re-released on Switch and is out on PS4 and stuff. So the original is available in some capacity.
Yeah. How did you guys feel about Mario 64 DS? Like, was that an improvement for you guys, or do you still go back to the original Mario 64?
I just play the original.
Yeah, I like Mario 64 DS. It's hard to know which one I like better. I think I like the extra content that's included in Mario 64 DS, and I really like playing as Yoshi.
I just can't get
Wario,
behind the controls. That's
me too.
Yeah, I just can't do the D-pad thing.
I never had an
issue
with
I'm not a big fan of the touch control. I mean, the touch controls are superior, but it's like they're also not at the same time.
Yeah, it's also a touchscreen.
Yeah.
So. I mean, that is the thing. I've gone back and I've replayed both of them in the past, and they feel I've never had an issue with the controls of Mario 64 DS, but the original definitely feels a lot nicer to play. But I can also go back and play 64 DS on the 3DS and use the circle pad.
It's not the same.
It's
not the same.
It's 8 directions.
Yeah, but it's better than using the D-pad at the very least. But yeah, no, but I think I go for content sometimes more than I do for quality of stuff, and having 4 playable characters makes 64 DS better. Now, best of both worlds would be if they remake 64 DS. If this rumor is true, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, continue. If we continue on then with the games we were playing. Sorry, I got lost in thought then. What I've been playing this week is a lot more Animal Crossing. A lot of Animal Crossing. I can finally got KK Slider to arrive at my town.
Ooh.
So I can do the excavation and find out my whole plans of making an archipelago are completely ruined because you can't make river mouths, which ruined everything. So now I'm scrambling to come up with a new idea. But aside of that, I finally got back into Ring Fit Adventure.
Lucky.
Now that we're all sort of self-isolated, I've decided to get the chance to revisit it because I was about halfway through the game when I fell off of it because it started getting a bit too cold and I had to get up earlier, and then I decided to join a gym instead. But now Ring Fit back on it, back running through, and they've added that new rhythm game. And John, I don't know if you played the rhythm game on Ring Fit yet.
I haven't, but I was going to tonight because my plan in March was to play Ring Fit every single day, and I fell off that. I got to day 16 in March, and then something happened. I just never really came back. But I'm planning to come back today, and I was going to play the rhythm game. It sounds like an excuse, but I actually was.
Well, it's actually surprisingly really good, and I feel like it's almost something that if it had a bit more fleshed out towards it, I could see them releasing it as like a standalone thing.
Wow.
I really enjoy rhythm games, and this really feels like it's obviously there's only so much you can do with the ring itself, but it's a good workout, and I think it's one of the more traditional arcadey style rhythm games. like the sort of ones you'd find in Japanese arcades or Beat Saber or stuff that Nintendo's put out. Because really, the only rhythm games they've ever put out are what Rhythm Heaven and Tempo, which was Game
that
Freak.
I didn't think of, yeah. How does it go back and forth between different Nintendo tracks? Because I know that there's like Splatoon and Breath of the Wild and Odyssey in there. Does it just relay between all of them, or can you select a certain track to play, or how does it work?
No, so they've only got Mario has I think 2 or 3 songs in the game. Splatoon and Breath of the Wild just have one, both are medleys. And then Wii Fit also has one, which is just a medley. The Breath of the Wild one may as well just be called the Boss Medley, because it just plays the boss music and then plays the main Breath of the Wild theme right at the end for like 2 seconds. The Wii Fit medley is actually quite good. And then Jump Up Superstar's nice. Splatoon 2 is okay. It's like an off-the-hook song and then one random song from the game.
I thought...
I haven't done yet.
The overworld music in Breath of the Wild, like just like a few little piano tracks, just every 5 seconds. Ding.
Yeah, the actual Nintendo music on there, it'd be nice to have more of it, but this kind of made me appreciate the music in Ring Fit Adventure. Like, I played some of the original tracks. It lets you play every song in the game, and there are some really good tracks in Ring Fit Adventure. Like, the snow music is shockingly danceable too. It's like really good. So I might like listen to the soundtrack like just itself, and because when you're exercising, you don't really pick it up. Like, you're not really thinking about it because it's not your main focus. But it's the sort of music I would listen to while exercising, and it gives you that high energy feel, which also makes it really good for a rhythm game. Kind of want it in Smash now, to be honest.
I kind of wish I had Ring Fit Adventure. I tried to outsmart Nintendo. I was like, you know what? I'll buy one of the bootleg rings because it's just plastic, and then I'll go buy the game digitally on the eShop. Uh-oh, you can't do that. It's cartridge only. It's a rare gem.
You need that ring, and that ring is like really durable. It takes a beating in this game.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. I'm amazed.
When I was covering it pre-launch, they said they got like the strongest man they could to try and break the ring, and he just couldn't. So this thing can take a beating.
Yeah,
they got Doug Bowser to just pull on it as hard as possible. The strongest man on earth.
But no, they've just recently put it back in stock over here because 2 of my friends managed to get a hold of it before it went out of stock again.
That's gonna be like.
It's like the perfect time for it now that everyone needs to stay indoors.
Yeah. Hey, can you send me one? That'd be fantastic. Because we're going through a little bit of a Ring Fit drought in the U.S. here. There's just
Japan and everyone else. Like, I'm amazed we even got stock over here suddenly.
I should have asked for it for my birthday. It came out on my birthday, and I wasn't getting Doom anyway because it got delayed. So should have just.
Well, it's hindsight is 2020.
I wonder if Nintendo of America's PR still has a few lying around. Yeah, we'll stream it.
I streamed it when it first came out, and it was a 2-hour long stream. I overestimated my abilities way too much, and I had to keep going for all those 2 hours. I barely worked out before that. So just exercising full on for 2 hours, I tell you, it kills you. And after that, I could barely feel my knees, and I had to just take a big long break from Ring Fit, which completely ruined my schedule. So yeah, don't do that.
I think the true madmen out there are the people who have been speedrunning Ring Fit Adventure.
Oh god,
that's become a community in and of itself. I think I can't remember the last time I checked. The world record was something like 14 hours.
I would genuinely watch that. I think out of all the game speedrunning streams that people do, that one must be genuinely entertaining to watch.
Yeah, it's like all about finding out what the the fastest exercises are that do the most damage, like the most damage per second exercises, and then doing it on the easiest difficulty so that enemies go down quicker, and just running through the game like that.
That is insane.
I mean, it's a healthy game to speedrun.
Yeah, they have jugs of water waiting on the sidelines for you. But yeah, that's all I've really been playing this week. I've been meaning to start La Mulana. I guess I played the Japanese version of Zelda 2 on stream. And like, so I like Zelda 2. It's like one of my favorite Zeldas, and I'm in the minority opinion on this. But the Famicom Disk System version of Zelda 2 is actual garbage. It's so unpolished, and it's so jank. The only thing good about it is the music. The music is better in the Famicom Disk System because they had more musical ports to work with. Everything else is terrible. All the dungeons look identical. Like, there's less boss fights in it. The enemies have weird hitboxes where they can hit you from a bit further away. And I think the worst part about it is Link feels really heavy and slides across the floor.
I've somehow never heard about this.
It's weird. I knew
the exact same.
No, I knew the game had differences, but like, so here's actually the worst difference, and people on stream saw me get mad at this. The leveling system is really messed up in the Japanese version. So everything has in the English version of Zelda 2, every level has like different experience points needed. So if you get 1,000 experience points, you can only get attack because health is 2,000 and stuff like that. And you can choose to ignore it maybe and save up to 2,000 to get the next one. But in the Japanese version, it's all the same. So it's all 500 EXP. And you can choose to basically, what this means is you can just choose to keep putting your experience into attack constantly. So you could end up with like 8 attack and 1 health and 1 magic. And that's a strategy. But if the game is programmed so that if you die, your levels reset to the lowest value you have.
Oh, no.
So if you did that and you had attack in 8 and then you died, your attack would go back down to level 1. But none of the experience stuff that you got throughout the game would respawn. It would be lost forever. So you just lose all of that. So I kept getting like level to 2 on health and attack and then dying. And because I hadn't gotten that 3rd level up, I would be going back down to level 1 and just having to keep powering through, doing the same thing, but now weaker until I managed to get 3 levels to keep it consistent. And it's just, and then the level cap increases. So now you need more experience points to reach that level cap. You basically have to level up 3 times between deaths. And that's really, really hard in a game where you slide around like you're on ice and fight enemies with janky hitboxes. So yeah, don't play that version of the game. It's not good. It's and also the Shadow Link glitch at the end of the game, that sort of exploit, isn't in the Japanese version.
No.
So you just have to fight him like they intended.
That's been the that's the thing that's like the thing with all of the famous like Nintendo games that went from like the Famicom disk system to the to the West, is that like, yeah, they tended to make them a little easier because us, you know, babby Westerners, but like they also included like a ton of like quality of life improvements that actually make all those games like way better to play anyway.
Yeah, there's a reason they then reported the American version of Legend of Zelda 1 to Japan and put it on a cartridge.
Doesn't like Super Mario Brothers 2, everyone's favorite Doki Doki Panic ROM hack, like that has like checkpoints in the American version that's not in the Japanese.
It's not in the
version.
Japanese. You fail, you go back to the beginning, like in the original Super Mario Brothers.
It's better.
The checkpoints make that game a lot smoother to run through. Yeah, no, it's always good. Like, I think people don't realize how much Nintendo of America like actually changed between versions during the localization back in the 80s, because there are lots of differences between stuff.
They added the run button in Mother, which even though that game was never released. Currently watching a whole
thing about Mother at the moment, the very first one, and how that got made, and it's quite impressive all the sort of stuff they had to go through to make changes to that game. Like, the interviews are pretty interesting.
Is that the documentary that are?
Yeah, I haven't finished it yet though.
Send me a
link. Like halfway through. Yeah, sure.
I'd like to take a gander while I'm doing basically nothing. But it has been 2 weeks, which means we've had ample time to also finish Doom Eternal, the longest video game ever made.
I mean, there's a bunch to do, but I mean, I finished it in a pretty decent time on.
It's not that long. It's that compared to other Doom games, you're like, whoa, like.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, the levels in that game are stupidly long.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing is like 15 to 18 hours. Like it's pretty insane in length just for like a shooter campaign.
It is, yeah. But each level feels really distinct though. There's so many great ones with tons of variety in them.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And the weapon variety too. I can't think of another shooter that encourages you to swap out your loads so often. Like you have to use every single gun, and I love that. You
But
can't
John, I just want to use super shotgun and go forward. What do you mean I have to chainsaw for more ammo? Stinky.
No.
Remembering remembering to chainsaw and especially remembering to use the flamethrower were like my two biggest hiccups in that game. My housemate was playing it at the same time and he'd watch me play it and be like, just use the flamethrower. Josh, you're dying. Use the flamethrower to get shields. And I was like, oh yeah, right.
I basically finished the game and forgot entirely about the flame belch. It's everything else I was fine, but I just couldn't remember to use that.
It's actually it's kind of interesting because this Doom is the one that really seems to separate the boys from the men. And it's strange because one of the biggest complaints about when people are like, no, you got to play it this way, is when it's like, oh, so I have to play it in one style and one style alone. Yet every single person I've talked to has like a completely separate rhythm for how they go through each area of Doom Eternal. Like, for example, what I do is I don't like rely on one gun and then refuel if I need ammo. Usually it's like I go ham with like any of the automatic weapons and then use the super shotgun on the baddies, and then I see a zombie like in the corner a mile away and I just meat hook, chainsaw, flame belch whoever's around, and then just jump back into the fray. Like it feels so good when you get into like the groove of it, especially with the Mick Gordon score and monkey bars. Like it's really fantastic.
Yeah, I find the silhouette of every enemy is ingenious because they all look really distinct. So you can just see a shape from miles away and know what to do with that enemy.
Except
like,
the Prowler.
Like a Caco demon, you become. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Except the Prowler. That just looks like an imp.
Yeah.
Like if you see a Caco demon across the screen, you can just get out the regular shotgun, fire like a grenade into their mouth, then like get the super shotgun out and grapple onto something. It's ingenious of that how every weapon has a distinct, unique ability and how every enemy is vulnerable to that.
Yep.
I just love this little dance of mastery that you can get just continuously learning the game.
My strategy was slightly different from others because my thing was to see enemies from a distance and then snipe them with the rifle to get rid of their weak points, because that's a really cool system in this game.
I kind of wish they introduced those drone enemies way earlier on. I feel like a lot of people would not complain about the ammo thing if those drone enemies that you can headshot for free ammo were slightly earlier in the game.
Yeah, getting headshots in this game is super satisfying because it makes that pop noise. It just reminds me of I think it's Halo, where if you get a headshot on a grunt and then the confetti flies out.
Yeah. I think that's when you're playing with skulls on. It just goes, yay!
Yeah, that's the feeling I get sniping things in this game. It just makes me do it even in close quarters.
One reason why I wanted to talk about Doom Eternal is because last time we talked about Doom Eternal, I was very close to beating it. Nan wasn't, which means that Nan had to, during that week, Nan had to face the Marauder.
Oh.
So Nan, how do we feel about the Marauder now?
That is the worst enemy. That's the worst thing I've ever fought in a game recently. It's actual nonsense. Like the whole game is building you up around dashing through things, punching things, being able to shoot things. And then this guy comes along, can do everything you can do, and the game demands you to stand a certain distance away and can only attack him at certain points because otherwise he'll block stuff. Can bounce a BFG off of his shield. It's the complete most nonsense enemy in this whole game. I hated it. I actually despised fighting the Marauder. I think there's one level where they throw a bunch of them at you in close quarters, and it was just frustrating. I went into the level with like 8 lives and lost like 5 to the first Marauder.
There's that one cavern where they throw in a Marauder and 2 whiplashes, and I was just like, "Are you having a giggle? Like, what is this bullshit?"
Yeah.
Though I'm pretty glad, like, I played on Ultra Violence, and it seems like they pace them out well enough so that they only show up at the end of battles when there's, like, nothing else around you. There's that one in the second to last level, they throw one at you when you're in that big kind, I don't even know what the hell you'd call it. You're, like, inside a building with this, like, dining area. And I remember there's all these, like, barons and spider mastermind arachnotrons and the tyrants, which are just the cyber demon, and a marauder showed up, and I went, all right guys, you stand over there, we're gonna go into this corner and duke it out, and then I'll come back. Like, I'm not taking on everyone at once. I'm getting rid of this guy first, and then we'll go on.
My strategy was just to dodge the guy and get rid of everyone else before facing him off, because like I just couldn't be doing it. I think what makes it slightly worse are the dogs. Like, I don't know what his trigger is for summoning the dogs, but they just constantly get in the way. And, like, they make me waste some of my powerful ammo by jumping and taking a bullet for him.
Yeah.
Which is just really frustrating.
I just most hilarious things. This guy's already incredibly strong. He can like counter every single ability you have, and then id Software were like, yeah, give him a dog as well.
That's
it would help this guy an assistant.
Yeah, basically what John said is how I feel about the Marauder. I don't think he's the worst thing ever, because after every encounter I got significantly better at fighting him. And there also is a rhythm. Everyone, if you go on Twitter, there's the people who do like the super shotgun ballista, super shotgun kind of chain attack, and it really just stuns the hell out of him. But it really is like super annoying, like how much like that enemy is like the antithesis of like everything you've been learning up until that point. And if he had less attacks, or you could just blast him with the BFG and be done with him if you had to. You only have 2 ammo for the BFG. Like, let me use what scarce supplies I have just to take care of this asshole. Like, please. Would be.
I will say though, like when I first encountered him, I died again and again. But on later encounters, I did kind of understand his pattern.
Yeah,
after a while.
that's
like he does get easier to deal with over time, but he never stops becoming a nuisance though.
Yeah, really. I think what annoyed me the most is like the game's clearly like, if you stand too far away, he does this. If you stand too close, he does this. So stand at the right distance. So I stand at that distance, and all he does then is dash towards me and shotguns me.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what? Why can he do this? Like, I'm doing what the game wants me to do, but he's not responding in the way the game told me he would respond.
Yeah, you pretty much have to keep moving.
That's what really annoyed me. Yeah. Yeah, other than that, I mean, I agree with you, because I think we talked about this before, Colin. All of the new enemies that they introduced in this game are pretty meh.
Yeah, they're
like
pretty
the Prowler and the Snake one, whose name I don't remember.
Also the Dread Knight, who's just...
it's just the Hell Knight.
It's the Hell Knight with an AoE. Great. Cool. Like, great addition, guys. You really did it.
But, like, other than that, I really enjoy how, like, that game lets you have like the combat in different ways that you want, really makes you do the ammo thing properly, but also it really sort of helps support getting collectibles and secrets. Doom's quite well known for its nonsense secret locations. And this game, at least, like, once you get to the end of a level, it's like, oh, and now you can just fast travel and go back and deal with all of these secrets in your own time. And there's like never anything that you can't get in your first run through.
I've heard a big complaint with Doom 2016 that people had was that, like, trying to find things was a chore, because you basically had to go through all these little nooks and crannies to find stuff, which, I mean, I love exploration in video games, especially in, like, linear shooters that have little, off-the-beaten-track paths. But I do like secrets in Doom Eternal, because it's usually like, alright, I'm about to exit this room. Wait a second, let me just turn around, and then in the corner of your eye, you just see that little question mark thing, and you're like, okay, let's figure that out.
Yeah. Also, your movement abilities in Eternal are really over the top. Like, you can dash in the air, you can double jump, you can grab onto these ledges, you can, like, crawl, and there's so many great things you can do in this game that you couldn't do in 2016. And sometimes finding secrets can feel like you're almost breaking the game, but it wants you to. It gives me that feeling that Odyssey gave me sometimes, where I would go in a place that felt like I was out of bounds almost, but it's exactly where they want you to go to find a secret.
Well, it does let you skip sections quite well with that. There was one secret that was hidden off where what it wanted me to do, which I discovered after the fact, was to, like, jump onto this a spring sort of thing that would shoot me off onto this platforming section. But I just thought to myself, what if I dash and then right at the last second spin around and just grab the wall as fast as I could? And it took me a few tries, but I managed to do it and skip the entire platforming section to get to the secret.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about too. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that the game like has moments like that where if you're skilled enough with it, kind of like with Mario Odyssey, with like the platforming stuff, you can just bypass areas no problem and speed up the whole thing. It is really enjoyable. I like when games give you options like this for momentum.
I'm very concerned how this will play with Joy-Cons at 30 FPS. I'm very concerned. I'm willing to see it through. I will be first in line to see how it does it, but I am very concerned. I have many questions.
Gyro, baby! I can't wait to play this game with gyro controls. That's one thing I missed in the PS4 version. Gyro in Doom 2016 felt so good. If it didn't have it in the base game, they patched it in later. And as soon as gyro was added in, I played the game from beginning to end all over again. It feels so good. I wish every shooter had gyro.
Yeah.
They really should. Gyro is like the next best thing behind mouse and keyboard for shooting games.
It sure is.
Yeah, which is the problem I had on the PS4. My friend's playing it on PC, and I'm like, he's getting everything so much easier, and I'm struggling in certain parts. Like, I had to mess around with the sensitivity to just get it just right for me.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like playing it on like a keyboard. You're like everything is mapped to every key ever. It's like on a controller you only have so many buttons. I wonder if on the Switch version they'll do that thing that some games do, where when you play the game with split Joy-Cons, you can actually use like the SL and the SR buttons like as extra macros.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, Doom was a pretty fun game. I enjoyed. It has really good sections. Although coming at it from my Doom background, being beaten the first game, beaten 2016, got halfway through 2. There's so much lore in this game that they throw at you that I just didn't get. Like the part early on where you're in the castle and there's this ghost king, and the Doom guy bows to him, and I'm sitting here like, what the heck? Who? What? Who? What?
Well, a lot of that is like being very freshly introduced. Hugo Martin, the game's director, he very, very clearly really likes Doom 64 and Doom 64's aesthetic. And now we learn that game is the connector between the old Doom games and the new Doom games through a pretty blatant cutscene, which is really surreal to watch. He just loves that gothic horror stuff, and I guess they're just trying to push more of that into the Doom canon. Almost sort of making it a blend between Doom and Quake, which I don't mind, because I don't think they'll ever make a single-player Quake that's like based on Quake 1 again.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Doom 64, though. It's such a good game.
It's really good. And the new Night Dive version is fantastic.
It really is. And it has gyro, unlike Doom Eternal.
Yeah! Even though it's horizontal aiming, it has gyro.
I still haven't got to Doom 64 yet. I'm going to go back. I was halfway through Doom 2 when Eternal came out.
God bless Kaiser and those boys at Night Dive. God bless them. Good fellas. Did you see they just dropped a remaster of Sin out of nowhere on Steam?
I didn't.
Just one day, everyone who has Sin installed in their Steam library, freaks like me, the game just like uninstalled itself and reinstalled itself, and no one knew why. And then Night Dive went, "Hey, we just remastered the entire game. There you go."
Whoa,
it's like,
that's amazing.
It's like, oh my god.
See, that's how you do an update, not like Final Fantasy IX on Steam, which updated itself by removing the game entirely.
GTA did that too. GTA 4 did that by just completely removing the good version of the game. Well, the gooder version of the game, because it's not a good version of the game anyway. Mm-hmm. And then just took out the multiplayer and took out the radio stations. Thanks, Rockstar. And yes, the Doom 64 on Switch and other platforms does have new content. It just has like a new episode by Kaiser, and it's basically a prequel to Doom 2016. There you
Yeah.
go.
That they're connecting them through. It's like a shooter game is never the one I think of for continuity.
No,
But I enjoy
it's
it.
cool
for
to
the same.
dive deeper though. I love it when games don't explicitly have a story, but then if you dive deeper or really
Mm.
read into it, then there's way more to it than it seems. Like Dark Souls is great at that. Like the direct story that's told to you is very vague, but then you have tons of these YouTube channels who just take apart the lore and make their own interpretations of it. And I think that's really cool when games do that.
Hollow Knight was the same for that. Hollow Knight was really good for. It's like having the story be told through the background
Hmm.
aesthetics. It's always super nice. Breath of the Wild on its own sort of does that,
It does, yeah.
but like as a standalone, not to the same extent. But there are things there that allow people to still theorize.
Yeah,
Which
there's
is
tons
nice.
of ruins of towns in Breath of the Wild, and you can just sort of interpret what they were or how they link to previous games. So yeah, that kind of stuff's always really cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's good that Doom sort of getting in that. Now they just need to connect Doom back to Wolfenstein for the complete story. Maybe in the Commander Keen mobile game they'll do it.
I was actually surprised there wasn't a lot of Wolfenstein references in Eternal. There's like a couple music tracks, but that's really about it. It's kind of a little shockified, but
Save
a lot
Quake,
of Quake
right?
2. A lot of Quake 2 music though.
Yeah.
Which I can't complain. Sonic Mayhem, good people, but it's really odd. But yeah, that day, that Good Morning Source Gaming, right after, I just marathoned the rest of Doom Eternal, because the very next day was the first Half-Life game in 13 years, and I was on that as soon as possible, because I love me some Half-Life. And I played it on my $150 HP Windows Mixed Reality headset, so not cutting edge, just whatever Micro Center had for minimal budget. And oh man, it was something else because it's like it's so here's the part where last week I was gushing about Doom Eternal. Now I get to gush about Half-Life Alyx. Because I had this miraculous weekend where I played 2 masterpiece return, of these shooter icons. But I will say that starting off Half-Life Alyx was really surreal, because Doom Eternal is like this big love letter to not only Doom, but like every 90s shooter ever. We were discussing last episode, I keep saying last week, but that's not true. We were discussing last episode, there's that bookshelf of Fallout and Prey and Unreal references, and you start off Half-Life and I was getting 4 hours in, and there's a couple references to Half-Life. You have a snark in a jar, but it wasn't hitting me over the head with references to previous games. And at first it felt weird just coming off of Doom Eternal and how just kind of playful that game was with references, but I also really appreciated it. I think that's how I came off of Half-Life Alyx, as someone who's just really likes these games and has been waiting so long. I'm just really glad they didn't do because they could have easily have pulled a Star Wars Force Awakens, where it's just reference after reference after reference to the old stuff, and you're just bombarded with about that beer I owed you. They could have included so much stuff, but no, it's very kind of it even uses Half-Life 2 assets, because you have the Combine Metro Cops very sparingly. It's very clear they just really wanted to do a new Half-Life game that didn't feel like it had to rely too heavily on the previous games. But since it's a prequel, it's I said on Twitter, it's kind of and this reference is going to go over the heads of most people, but it's like the Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, where of video games, where it's a prequel, but it is also a sequel at the same time. And it's really fantastic.
I am so incredibly jealous. I really want to play this game. I played every Half-Life game. I've been waiting so many years to play a potential sequel or prequel, and I just can't. I just don't have a VR headset. I think I need to upgrade my PC a bit more. I really want to play this. It looks so good, but no way.
And I'm definitely not going to go into spoilers, but I will say they did it right. They made amends for video gaming's worst cliffhanger of all time.
Oh wow.
The biggest backstab of a cliffhanger of all time. They made sure to make it right, and I think once you're kicked back to the menu after the credits, you are gonna go Half-Life's back.
So does it leave you thinking Half-Life 3 is coming?
It doesn't leave you thinking that.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'll leave it at that. I am curious though. I mean, I guess I could talk about the gameplay a bit because it is VR, so it's a little different than just like run and shooty. I play a lot of VR games. I play like Boneworks and Walking Dead and H3 VR and Blood and Truth. Go play Blood and Truth. And all this stuff. And the thing about Half-Life Alyx that I think sets it apart from other VR games, and I think the reason why it's been rated so highly is and this is going to sound like total fanboy talk, it is the return of Valve polish. It doesn't play too differently from other VR shooters. If you played a VR shooter before, like you kind of know, how to reload. I think I've reloaded a pistol in VR about 90 times. Like I've just done it so many times where you just load a new magazine in, you cock the slide, and you're like, yeah, it's a gun. But in this game, they do so much more to it. They like with how like tweaked the animations are, how satisfying the animations are. How they balance like ammunition and aiming and all the attachments you can put on the guns, and it just and how enemies have like weak spots, and it's like there's like no jank. I think there was like a couple times where I ran into bugs and I had to reload a save, but otherwise like it was that game is gorgeous. It plays fantastic. It could run a little better. It looks beautiful, but like, oh my god. Gotta wait for that next generation of NVIDIA cards, I guess. But it's damn. It's also like a survival horror game, which I didn't expect that either.
One day I'll be able to get into Half-Life properly. It's one of those series that I know via osmosis and have never actually had the chance to play.
They were all free this month. This was like the perfect month to get into them. Although, I mean, during any Steam sale, like Valve's entire gamography goes on sale for like $20, and that's like 30 games for $20. Like, it's such a unbeatable deal. And
obviously I need time for. I think that's it.
Yeah,
it's like it and Silent Hill are like the two series that I should probably have played by now. I just haven't.
Hopefully they bring them to Switch or something. I'm surprised they haven't. I mean, Valve's been weird with like releasing any video games lately, but maybe they'll go like, hey, there's interest, and put the orange box or something on SWIP.
That'd be cool. I feel like Valve's become, like, Steam itself has become way bigger than it ever was since Valve's last console game. I think the last one was either Counter-Strike Global Offensive or Portal 2.
Yeah, it would have been that really crappy version of Global Offensive on 360 Live Arcade.
I think Steam's just become way too big since then, and that's kind of their focus now. It would be so cool if they did bring them to other platforms, but yeah, not that much hope from me. But do you remember when they had like PS3 Steam support? So like Portal 2 could play with the PC version and get Steam achievements.
And they had exclusive DLC for the Move wands.
That's right.
Yeah. It was very bizarre. Oh man. Valve's back. They did it. they really nailed it. I'm so pleased. I am pleased as punched as for what they did, and very much so looking forward to it. I'm also very curious how they are going to go forward outside of the really obvious thing they're going to do next with the Half-Life franchise. But I wonder if they'll keep doing these little VR spin-offs, because like it seems like a really cool way of it reminds me a lot of like Opposing Force and Blue Shift and all these expansions for Half-Life 1, but I feel like with VR you can really do a good job of kind of differentiating like all these different characters and how they play, instead of just them all feeling like Gordon Freeman with different arms.
Mm-hmm.
So
isn't Shepard still like floating in a box somewhere?
Yeah.
So give him like a little VR adventure.
Maybe after Hunt Down the Freeman, though, they'll just not do anything with Shepard because the name's been tainted. Gotta wait on Half-Life Barney first.
I'll play that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess, Colin, I've got a question about Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah.
And that's sort of its impact, because people was wondering whether or not this would be like the Super Mario 64 of VR games, like the VR game that will get people into VR games.
I think it is.
You think it is?
I think it is, and the reason why I say that is because every VR set ever is just sold out right now. Like it has created this huge boom in the VR headset economy, where I mean, like even Valve can't restock their own supply of the Index, and that's a $1,000 headset, and people are like immediately snatching it up. Like that's crazy to think about. And again, like, because I think, as I kind of said before, I think it's got that Valve polish. Like it's kind of like how Half-Life 2 maybe isn't the best shooter of all time, but it's so masterfully created just in terms of like visuals and pacing and control and aesthetic. I mean, that game still holds up to this day. There's like little detail. There was like this whole Twitter moment where people didn't realize that Alyx has had a patch of duct tape on her jacket for all this time. That game's like 18 years old and no one noticed just a bunch of duct tape, because it's like, it's such a small little hidden detail that you're like, what? And that's Half-Life Alyx. Like it's just chock full of so much detail and beauty, and everything's just like tight and smooth and perfect. And I think this is like, this is gonna be the game. I just really wish more VR demo stations were a thing, you know, so people could actually have a means of trying VR without having to go to a friend's house or spending a few $100s on a whim.
Yeah,
but
that's kind of impossible at the moment because we can't really
Yeah,
go to
exactly.
a friend's house. We can't try out demo units.
It is a shame, but whew, that game was sublime, genuinely fantastic. Really loved it.
Oh,
that's good.
I'm so jealous.
And then I played Disaster Report 4 2 days ago.
You just had to bring the whole thing down for
Yeah.
yourself.
I won't talk about Disaster Report 4 much. You can go watch the stream. It's like 4 hours long, but it's worth it. That game is exactly the stupid kind of niche Japanesey bullshit I really wanted out of it.
Is it actually good though?
Define
Like-
good.
Is it Deadly Premonitions levels of good?
It's there. There's so much goofy bullshit in that game. There's like the one thing that was really setting off a Shadow Link was the fact that you can choose between a male or female protagonist, but they both have the same exact dialogue trees. So
Okay.
you can just have all these moments where like this Japanese businesswoman is like, high school students, and you're like, oh no.
What?
It is a big yipes.
Anyway.
I might stream more of that in the future. We were having a good old time. It was really cheesy and janky and runs at like 3 frames per second, but there's a stealth section. There's a stealth section in that game where the enemies can't see you, so there's like no difficulty to it. You just jimmy around on the floor for like 10 minutes.
That's the ultimate stuff.
Yeah. The only way you can fail it is if you press the scream button, because this game has a button where you go, ah, for no reason.
I love that.
Yeah. Go watch the stream. I know it's long. It's 4 hours. I intended it to be a really long stream, but it is worth it. It is like that game just kind of ramped up in how silly it got, like progressively over time, and I love it. Thanks, NIS America.
I mean, I'm into goofy horror games. I've been debating whether or not I want to get The Missing, which is one of the Swery game. It's on sale on the US eShop for like $12, but it's not on sale over here.
That game is very good, very heartfelt, very emotional. And I say that without any sarcasm. That's like actually true. It's like this. It's like it's like an actual like deep emotional like journey through. Well, you'll see.
Won some awards, but like I've been playing Deadly Premonition. I just beat D4, which has the goofiest eating sequences I've ever seen in any video game ever. And also, I don't understand how people would be able to play this with Kinect, like the actual stress that people must go through playing that game with the Kinect.
Nan, did you read or watch the recent interview with the voice actor of Francis York Morgan?
Yes, I listened to it.
Yeah, like how Swery, like the first Deadly Premonition is more of a product of Swery and his team not knowing like literally any English, but having to work with like English programmers and voice actors, and it's just like this weird amalgamation. But since he's picked up on his English better, like all of his games have gotten like so much like more like they're like masterpieces now. I'm really looking forward to Deadly Premonition 2.
Yeah, so am I. I'm really looking forward to that game. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed like everything else is getting delayed this year.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because it wasn't on our schedule, but Last of Us 2 has been delayed again. Indefinitely delayed at this point.
They got scared of Xenoblade.
Exactly. The thing I'm worried about, Iron Man VR. Why isn't no one talking about that one? It's always The Last of Us.
Because even as the VR fanboy, I'm not looking forward to Iron Man VR.
I don't know. Colin, this is Good Morning Source Gaming. We can't be giving Last of Us any props.
Oh, true.
Can't go an episode without.
Right? Yeah. God, all my favorite movies are coming out next year. Morbius, Jungle Cruise, New Mutants, The Last of Us Part 2, whatever else movie was delayed to make this joke work, you know.
Colin, New Mutants is never coming out. I think we should all just accept that that's...
They put Artemis Fowl on Disney Plus, but not New Mutants. I feel so bad for that cast.
But anyway,
especially for a movie called New Mutants, and the whole focus of that film is it's all like brand new actors and stuff. Like this is supposed to be their big break, and it's just like, whoops. That's so bad.
So the next topic on our list, now we've covered all the games we've been playing over the last 2 weeks, was to talk about some particular rumors that have been coming out at the beginning of this week. Yes. Now I know, John, you've already spoke about it on Game Explain, the Super Mario 35th anniversary rumors. Where Colin and I actually haven't. We didn't participate in the Source Gaming discussion we did on that with Triss and Cody.
No one
and obviously,
to hear me bitch about Sunshine for an hour.
I'll join you.
Yeah.
But I guess I guess my first reaction with this, I mean, it's almost too good to be true to see them all getting re-released, but also it almost feels like an oversaturation of Mario. To think that we'd get a Paper Mario, Super Mario 64, 3D World, Galaxy, Sunshine. They haven't been mentioning Galaxy 2, but I can only assume that that's also in the works, because that would be strange if it wasn't.
Weird not to, yeah.
Yeah, and then there were already rumors about Mario Kart 9 at the end of this year. So, like, that's, 6 Mario games over the course of half a year? Because they haven't announced any of them yet, and I'm assuming they won't just shadow drop Paper Mario out of nowhere.
That's actually kind of the reason why I'm almost unenthused about these rumors, because, like, like, yeah, I love all these Mario games. I am damn excited to play them again with prettier graphics and maybe better controls. But it's like, man, like, what happened to Breath of the Wild 2? Like, where's Prime 4? Like, where's all these, like, new installments? I mean, like, yeah, there's, like, we might be getting a new Paper Mario, and, you know, the rumor is that it's going to be a throwback, but we'll decide on that one. Though, I'm going to be honest, I think the rumors of a ninth Mario Kart are snoozeville, in my opinion. I think that's, the one I don't really want to see happen.
I want to see it happen, but I think like Nan was saying, it is kind of an oversaturation.
Yeah.
And when I first heard these rumors, I was like, this sounds like BS, but I still believe
Yeah.
it though. Because first of all, Nintendo don't do collections very often. I think their last collection might be Metroid Prime Trilogy, unless you like count Bayonetta 1 and 2 being a compilation.
Was Metroid Prime Trilogy before or after that Kirby one?
I think it. Oh, that didn't actually come out in Europe.
Yeah,
I think that was just
the Kirby
America.
one didn't come out in Europe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Finally,
Yeah.
us Americans get something.
And you've got Excitebots, the best Wii game.
You got Excitebots, we got Disaster Day of Crisis. I feel like this trade-off wasn't fair.
No.
Hey, remember? Well, you guys got a physical of Fatal Frame. I mean,
That's true, we did.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah. But I am quite excited about the prospect of these. And what makes it more believable than most rumors is a ton of publications came out and said they have sources on this.
Oh, yeah, it was like Eurogamer and Gematsu and GameSpot, just like one after the other, and they were just like, yeah, we're the same.
Yeah.
I guess we're talking about this now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing that stops it from being oversaturation is I believe it was... what was the publication that also leaked the Direct and the Indie Showcase?
VentureBeat.
VentureBeat, yeah. They were saying that it's going to be a compilation.
Yeah.
So having Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy all in one, that does kind of stop the oversaturation to a point. It's not that they're all releasing individually. And that makes sense to me. But it is still a lot of Mario. We've still got Paper Mario. We've got this collection. Odyssey is still selling. At what point do they just slow down?
Yeah.
This was my thought. As soon as I heard like more people coming out about it, and I was like, maybe this could be true. But there's no way they're releasing them individually because that would be too many 3D platformers all at once. So it has to be some kind of collection in my mind, like Super Mario All-Stars 3D, effectively. That was what I felt like this had to be. But if they do that, I can't see Nintendo remaking all 4 games in like, I don't know, like they did with Super Mario All-Stars, remaking them with new graphics and slightly updated engine. I'd almost feel like it would have to be 3 emulators on a cartridge, a 64 GameCube and Wii emulator, with just the ROMs upscaled.
In chat, Phantom asked, wasn't there a Mario collection on Wii? And calling it a collection is generous. It was a ROM of All-Stars, not even the one with World on it, just 1, 2, 3, and Lost Levels.
It's the Super Nintendo icon on the menu.
Yeah. Embarrassing.
Yeah.
But no, well, I think in some regard it's because I see also someone in chat mentioning that they could have just released these games as is, as like their original ROMs on, you know, the online service. And I mean, like, I'm okay with them doing ports or remasters if they're gonna have to bring these games over. I imagine with games like Sunshine and Galaxy, it's just gonna be way easier to do a port because you don't have to go through the logistical issues of like, how do analog triggers work, or how do we map motion controls. I mean, even we have Mario Galaxy with a standard controller set up on the Nvidia Shield in China, so I imagine that like bringing that over to Switch makes a lot more sense than just dumping the Wii ISO on the eShop. But with something like Super Mario 64, because there's always going to be that contention between, do you keep the original so the controls are perfect, or do you fine tune it for a new generation? That's going to be the real debacle from all this.
Yeah.
I I'm kind of expecting semi-remasters. So, of course, the Switch is very different architecture to the Wii and GameCube, so just porting them straight is a little less... It's a little more tricky than just putting an ISO on the Switch.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
there's no like port button that you can press. I'm expecting Mario 64, at the very least, to be in 16:9, but I think they're going to keep all the original assets, or at least update them slightly, but keep the art style. Sunshine's an interesting one, because that was 30 FPS on GameCube, but it was shown at 60 FPS pre-launch. So I suppose this is an opportunity for Sunshine to finally run at 60 FPS, like Galaxy does in 3D World and Odyssey.
And that would be a good thing for it, though. They need to get around the analog control issues for Sunshine, because it obviously use the analog triggers to control how much water flow you have coming out, which the Switch doesn't necessarily have.
I think control is going to be the big thing with 64 and Sunshine, because Sunshine has the analog triggers, as you said, but also, like, I think a big problem, because I see there's always like a lot of people nowadays that are like, I don't like 64, and I think a lot of that is just simply due to the fact that the N64 analog stick works completely differently from modern analog sticks. So trying to play Mario 64 on like the Wii U gamepad does not feel nearly as good as it does on the original controller, and that's going to be something that I would hope they fine-tune if they are doing a remaster or a remake.
Yeah, I think for me, if they are doing remakes, this is the thing. If it is a collection, I don't know if I see them doing remakes, just simply because of how Nintendo's treated collections in the past. They've always, especially that Wii Mario All Stars one, it's always been like, just we've got it all there. Let's just throw it together and push it out there. Easy money. We'll do it for this 35th anniversary. Whereas when they've ever remade something like with Wind Waker, they've always released it full price. Here you go.
Right.
This is the thing. So to then see them take like 4 of their most popular games, or 3 of their most popular games, and a GameCube title, and then put them together into a $60 compilation and sell all 4 of them for that price together, all remade, seems like a pipe dream I don't feel Nintendo doing. And there are rumors, like some people like VentureBeat said it was a collection, but then there are other places out there saying, well, Mario 64 is actually like it's like a remake in HD and all of this. And I don't know if this was just speculation or stuff, but some people were saying the Mario 64 one was running in the Odyssey engine. And
I think Valve News Network said that.
I don't know if I buy that. I'm sure they could do that, but yeah, that doesn't sound like something they'll do to me. But also, like, we look at other remake compilations like Crash and Spyro. All 3 of those games in those collections play very similarly. Like, they're iterative. They're all on the same console. And I'm not sure you can really do that with a Mario game, because they'd have to remake all of them from scratch, because they all control differently for one, whereas the Crash games are all very similar, so they can't really share assets in the same way that those remakes can. So personally, if any game's going to be remade, it probably is Mario 64, but I'm not really expecting full-on remakes.
Yeah, I'm not expecting... If they just did the widescreen stuff and they kept all the same assets and made it a little bit more crisper, I'd be okay with it. Like, I don't expect full remakes of them.
I think,
but as long as they're all in the same collection, of course. If they just keep Mario 64 looking as is, and all they've done is make it 16:9, and then they sell it for like full price.
Yeah,
I think like the most likely scenario would be perhaps a remake of 64, because they've done it before. Sunshine would probably get like a Wind Waker HD treatment, where they just kind of go back and maybe throw in Bloom and just kind of redo the controls for a lot of it, just to make sure it makes sense on modern platforms. But I think Galaxy will just be kind of like what's been released on the Shield, where it's it's the game, but higher resolution, 16:9, standard controls, that sort of thing.
And I think that's fine for Galaxy. Yeah.
Galaxy 2 might be a bit tricky, actually, and this might be one of the reasons it's not really rumored as heavily as the rest of them. Yoshi was quite pointer heavy. Like, there were points where you had to be really precise about where you're pointing his tongue to latch onto things. I don't know how well that's going to work with gyro, because gyro, of course, it drifts over time. It's something that might be okay in the original Galaxy, because you're not always having the pointer on screen. But when you really need it for those Yoshi platforming segments, it might become a bit tricky.
I wonder if they'll do something like the bow in Breath of the Wild, where you have to hold down like a bumper and
yeah.
it activates aiming mode or something.
That could work.
Could work, yeah. It's an interesting thought though, because obviously doing it like this, where they're just the same games but in HD, or doing it in the Odyssey engine and remaking them in that, because I have to feel, would this be Nintendo themselves actually making this collection? Because we haven't heard what the Odyssey team is doing since Odyssey came out. So would they be the ones kind of in charge of remaking this, or would they have got an outside company to do it, similar to what they did with Twilight Princess HD?
It could be
where
like
Tantalus is the one who did it.
It could be that, like, whichever games are the more kind of like resource intensive in terms of like retooling and purposing might be being handled internally, but they might be just like handing off Galaxy to someone else.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it'd be a bit of a shame if the Odyssey team all this time were just working on remakes.
Yeah,
To me, that's the sort of thing you give to like Grezzo or Tantalus or some remaster studio. I'd hope that they're working on a brand new game, but yeah, personally, I think they're probably outsourcing a lot of this.
Well, I hope if Mario 64 does get remade, it is the DS version, just with the better controls, just because of the more content and having more characters.
Don't you dare say better controls.
No, so that you can have better
controls.
Sorry, so you can have better controls for Mario 64 DS.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, I swear to God, Nan, don't you do this.
Are we keeping the DS mini games though? That's the important thing.
Oh, hell yeah.
Why remake it if you're not going to keep the mini games? We've got to see Luigi playing blackjack against Luigi. You've got to keep it going
in HD.
Yeah. So that'd be great. I don't see it ever happening, but it would be so good if they did. Because it's like that cool era of Mario games where they were like with Mario Kart DS and Super Mario 64 DS, where they were sort of a bit more creative before the new Super Mario Brothers formula kicked in, and everything went stale for a little bit until 3D World, I guess, which is a good segue because that's also apparently being remade. Gonna say with a deluxe edition. Wasn't there? Didn't someone say? I don't know how true this is, but someone said that potentially 3D World and 3D Land were being remade together. And that was what the deluxe part of 3D World was. I just saw it in the Discord like a few days ago.
I believe the general consensus was that 3D World Deluxe will just have new levels, which makes sense because they did the same with Captain Toad. But someone out there in the wonderful world was saying like, oh well, the deluxe new levels are just all of 3D Land, which I feel like is gonna be really weird if that's true. Because 3D Land's scope is much smaller, but it's also a big game. It's just like all the levels are a lot tinier. So I don't know how that would adapt to 3D World very well.
Yeah, I mean 3D World's the biggest no doubt ever. I mean 3D World's in Mario Maker 2.
Yeah.
Captain Toad's on the Switch. Of course it's coming. And it's also a great Joy-Con game. It's just so easy to play like local multiplayer on the Switch in like a proper local multiplayer 3D Mario game.
And the only touchscreen gimmick on the Wii U was just you formed blocks. So
yeah,
there you
same
go.
Thing that New Super Mario Brothers U had.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of didn't want it to get ported, only because I feel bad for the Wii U and how it's basically got no games left.
I mean, it's cool. I still own my console. I can still play 3D World. I don't feel if this becomes real, it doesn't mean I have to buy 3D World on the Switch.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I think for me, it's going to depend on how many levels they add. So I like 3D World. I really, really enjoy. I've got a sort of special place because of all the good experiences I've had with that game. The first day we got it, I was at university when it came out, and it was multiplayer. I got 3 of my friends to come around, and we ended up beating the game in one single session, like 8 hours of sessions. And when it's like 5 in the morning and you get to Bowser World and the music kicks in and it's like a second wind.
This is one that my fiance and I played together all the way through, and we 100%ed it. So it's just me and her, and to 100% it, you have to beat every level as every character. So
yes, you did.
we played, I don't know, like 80 hours of this game together, and she doesn't typically play games that often, so it's just this really cool experience to just to try play it all with her for the first time. But yeah, it's a really good game. Very different to the other 3D Mario games, which may be why they're not including it in the supposed compilation. But also, it's just like a really easy one to market. Like, just show people playing a 3D Mario game together. That's all you need. It's just a multiplayer Mario game.
Well, 3D World is also like this like big HD, like quote unquote next generation like video game as opposed to a N64 game and a GameCube game and an enhanced GameCube game. So yeah, that's not a knock against the Wii. That's just the hardware. It's just a Wii.
Yeah,
with more
It
RAM.
still looks really good though.
Yeah, no, of
That
course.
still
I'm just
holds up.
saying.
Yeah.
There's a jump there.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to add any new characters to 3D World? Because obviously, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe added Peachette to the mix, and I'm almost wondering. This game obviously already had 5 characters and already has a Peach, so I'm almost wondering: will they add any new characters, or will they just stick with the levels? I could see them adding Toadette as an option.
Yeah,
I hope
maybe.
they add Toadette.
It'd be weird because there's already a Toad and there's already a Peach.
Yeah.
So, what do you do with Toadette?
And you could potentially bring the Peachette gimmick back and just make it even more OP.
Yeah.
Like, give it Rosalina's spin as well as Peach's glide for
Mhm.
that ultimate easy mode. I'm almost thinking I'd like them to add Yoshi in and just make it like his gimmick that he can't use power-ups, but he always has the flutter, jump, and tongue
That'd be cool.
attacks.
I would
Yeah.
like for them to balance out. I guess Toad isn't really gendered, but it'd be cool to have like 3 male characters, 3 female characters. So maybe have like Daisy or someone.
No, we don't need
Yeah.
Daisy.
Daisy hate. I mean, Daisy, I'd like to have Daisy. I'd like to have Wario and Waluigi as well. But I can see what Wario could do. Like, he's the slowest character and he doesn't jump as high. But if you get him into his running animation, he goes straight into the dash and can plow through enemies.
That'd be cool.
And maybe his role is better in it because they can roll in that game.
That was always the
I'll
thing
take
about
a
3D
that
World
game.
I thought was really neat,
Yeah.
though, was that they brought back the Mario 2 abilities. I thought that was, like, the coolest thing on the planet.
Yeah, there was a cool way to make sure that every character feel different and, like, set a difficulty to them. Peach is obviously the easier mode. Toad's the harder mode. And, like, you could do stuff like that with others. I don't quite know what Daisy and Waluigi would do that would make them different from the others. That's my only problem with them, too.
Oh my God,
Waluigi can never get the crown.
Imagine
That's his unique
if they
ability.
added Daisy and she was just a clone of Peach.
This is the thing. They made Daisy's unique thing in Super Mario Run, like the only platforming game where she's playable, is a double jump, which is already what Rosalina's ability is in 3D World. So it's she's a bit like blocked off there. But it would be cool. I mean, I want them to use more Mario characters like that. Mario Kart Tour should be taking notes from that and using better Mario characters, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, really.
Baby Rosalina the Detective's a great character.
But yeah, that 3D World remake, it would be is well. That's like the most definite one out of them.
Mhm.
But I think a new Paper Mario is also very, very likely. Even before any of these rumors came out, I was feeling a new Paper Mario because not only do we not have Mario and Luigi anymore, meaning that there's no other Mario RPGs out there. Intelligent Systems didn't make Three Houses. They like oversaw the development of it, but it was all done by Tecmo Koei.
Yeah.
I want to say so. Yeah, Koei Tecmo. That means what has Intelligent Systems been doing for the past 3 years?
I want to mention,
and I feel like Paper Mario is the thing that it seems like the most obvious choice.
Right.
I want to mention this because I'm sorry, but like some people brought it up and it was really weird. There seems to be a general, like, I can only call it a mass delusion, where people think that like Paper Mario is exclusively a late generation release.
What?
Like, I saw, like, a bunch of people saying, like, oh, yeah, well, Paper Mario is usually released at the end of the generation to take full advantage of, like, whatever Nintendo console it comes out on. Yeah, I was like, Sticker Star and Super Paper Mario were within the first
came out right at the start.
I don't
Super Paper Mario's the first, I think it's either the first or second Wii game on the Wii. Sorry, second Mario game on the Wii.
Yeah.
and they were both shown off like before the console was even out.
Yeah,
Right.
and even Thousand Year Door is only like 3 years into the GameCube's life. Really, it only applies to like 64 and Color Splash, and even then, like 64 barely counts because like Super Mario RPG came out in like what 96, like. But there was like years between those two games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense though. Color Splash, for all the flack it gets, was a beautiful game,
Yeah.
and there's a lot it can
yeah.
be used from that. So just take the basis of Color Splash and make a brand new game out of it. I'll be all for that. But also, it's tainted too. People don't like Sticker Star, and because of that, they didn't like Color Splash.
Yeah.
I like Color Splash for what it does, but it still built. It did the most it could with Sticker Star's formula. And I think it's definitely time to revert back. It feels like during the development of Color Splash, they weren't really aware of what people thought of Sticker Star because it reviewed quite well when it first came out.
Yeah.
So it feels like there's like a 180 in Color Splash where the dialogue was really good, but the base gameplay was still kind of hindered by its past. And hopefully they are fully aware that we don't want this game again. And hopefully it goes back to its roots with this one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really like Color Splash. I think it's primarily from the dialogue and the graphics and everything like that. Because I feel the only flaw that game has is the combat system is pretty bad.
The cards are,
and and I can see what they were trying to do. I think they had an idea with Sticker Star. It didn't quite land in its combat system, so they tried to fix some of the issues. But ultimately, like it was a system that was unfixable with how they had wanted to do it. Like you had to have some motivation to battle, and you just didn't in that game. And there are other little things here and there in the combat, like how bosses request very specific cards that you don't find out until you're at the boss, and you might have accidentally used them, in which case the boss is literally unbeatable, which should never be a case.
Yeah.
So there are things in there, but like everything else was fantastic in Color Splash. And I think people like it had a lot of good creativity in it. Yes, it had a lot of toads again, which did suck because some of their like original concept designs and stuff to not have toads is pretty good for that game. But I think people forget that Thousand Year Door, specifically because that's always the one that's heralded as being like this masterpiece, it has a lot of flaws in itself, and a lot of parts of that game are either retreads of stuff that happened in the first Paper Mario game, or are just a string of fights with nothing else happening in between them. Like there are sections of that game that make it flawed as well.
Yeah.
And it seems like they noticed that and they fixed it with Color Splash, and later games were just messed up the actual combat and gameplay that made the games really fun in the first place. So if this is taking that from the original games and the new stuff from the new games and putting it together, this could be like a real return to form Paper Mario game, which is really exciting to actually have happen.
I agree with you that Thousand Year Door isn't flawless, but it's still a fantastic game, probably my favorite in the series. But there definitely are flaws in that game that do get overlooked. But on the point of toads in Color Splash as well, they are just toads, but they make the most out of those toads.
Oh yeah,
there's one point in the game where there's this line of like 100 toads, and every single one has unique dialogue. They didn't need to do that, but you can talk to every single toad and they'll say something different. That's just a super cool moment, and it shows how much how much energy they had, even if the designs don't really reflect that.
They even make jokes about the designs. Like I know there's one toad in that line that's like, "Oh Mario, remember me? I'm the toad from this point."
Yeah,
like and stuff like this. Even though they all look the same. I mean, Mario had my favorite moment in Color Splash is that Shy Guy. That's a random subplot of the Shy Guy. You have a nice conversation on the train with him, and then you can run into him in the woods later on and have a battle with him.
Right.
And like he has dialogue depending on whether or not you kill him or not, which is like really like if you take him down, he's like, "At least I'm glad it was you, Mario." Before he then fades away. And it's like it's the little moments like that make the game feel a lot deeper.
I need to finish Color Splash. I think I got like 5 or 6 hours into it, and then I was like, I'm gonna go play other games right now. But
so, yeah, I enjoyed Color Splash a lot, so I'm excited to see a new Paper Mario. I can't imagine the combat to get worse, but then you never know. You just gotta hope. Although I have to just because someone brought it up, Phantom mentioned Paper Jam, which I know is a Mario and Luigi game with Paper Mario in it.
Made by Alpha Dream.
Made by Alpha Dream. That game actually has the complete opposite problem of Color Splash, where the game, the world, and story itself is pretty bad. But I think the combat in Paper Jam is like the best combat in any Mario and Luigi game.
Oh, really? For some reason, I just didn't like Paper Jam at all. I found it to get really, I found really fatigued by it, and maybe that's because I played Dream Team not that long before that. But for me, the combat was just kind of exhausting after a while.
I
really enjoyed.
I think it's that the story and setting are just so
so bland,
unenthusiastic.
Yeah,
that you're like, what am I doing? Like,
that's that game's biggest flaw. The setting and story and all of the characterization is all very nothing.
Yeah.
But I felt like the combat was the best. But then I've got weird Mario and Luigi opinions. As far as I'm concerned, Bowser's Inside Story is the worst one. So.
Ooh, we got $2 from Spazzy.
Yeah, that is. I am not a fan of Bowser's Inside Story. I think that's when Mario and Luigi fatigue hit me. Because like I was not looking forward to Dream Team, but then really enjoyed it. So
we got $2 from Spazzy, and weird
it was for you.
Yeah,
because he works for us.
Yeah, it's going right back into the site. And
thanks, Spazzy.
And Spazzy says that was just for John. Screw the other two.
Okay.
You can't screw us. You have a fiance. It's improper.
So Mario Kart 9, then I guess is the other Mario rumor, and we touched upon it briefly. But yeah, I kind of was hoping that with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe already being like a big seller and all this, there's a gap in the market for a kart game, but don't make it a Mario Kart game. Like, this is I understand why Nintendo doesn't do other racing games, because why would they do that when they've got Mario Kart? But this was the time, because it was essentially a remake. It's like people have already got Mario Kart, but there are going to be people out there who are like, well, I've already had Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. I bought it again on the Switch for convenience, but I would like a new racing game. And so they could have done something like, I don't know, they could do something like Nintendo Kart or Diddy Kong Racing 2 or some other kind of racing game, any IP, even if it's a new one. This is the right time to do it. I think that's why stuff like Crash Team Racing and Sonic Racing were well timed to try and fill that void. But if Nintendo just does Mario Kart again,
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe still sells so well. It's still the best-selling game on the console, and it always sells millions more every time they do their sales report. I can't buy a Mario Kart 9 rumor until I see the game. I just don't think it's going to happen. I just
don't want it, because because 8DX is like, I mean, it's old, but it's like perfect. It's like, it's beautiful. It runs fantastically. It's got like the best controls. It's got a metric nautical ton of content. It's like, it's fine. I already got my Mario Kart for Switch. Like, I want to leave it at that. If they do a Nintendo Kart thing and it's less of just Mario Kart with more Nintendo characters, and it's more like there is just some inherent change in how the game plays to give it like a cool, I guess, spin on things, to make it more than just another Mario Kart, like, that'd be neat. But otherwise, like, I'm good. I'm set. Give me anything else.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo's got lots of great racing IPs. We were talking about Excitebots earlier. The Excite franchise is great. Both Trucks and Bots are amazing games. There's Wave Race, there's Diddy Kong Racing. There's tons they could do. F-Zero, of course. And when it comes to people who played Mario Kart 8 on Wii U, like, I think it sold 5 million on Wii U. And it's sold, I think, 22 million on Switch, probably more than that now.
Yeah.
So the grand scheme of people like double dipping for this game is relatively pretty small. So most people playing 8 Deluxe, they probably are going into this basically as a brand new game.
Yeah.
So I think 8 Deluxe just has itself cornered, and there's no real reason to have another Mario Kart on the system, at least not yet. So I'd rather they just do a brand new racing game.
It is weird.
I kind of
'cause
want to see a return. I want to see a return of the snowboarding genre with 1080 Avalanche.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like I miss. I used to love the games like that in the GameCube era, like 1080 SSX Tricky. What's his name? Sean something snowboarding.
Oh yeah,
Shaun White.
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Sean White snowboarding. Like I loved all of them. They've kind of just fallen off the face of the earth. I think there was Steep, and that's about it.
Well, we were supposed to get
will that
Steep.
come to Switch?
Still coming.
Still on its way. But like, I'd rather see a racing game like that, like a more unique racing game than just Mario Kart again.
Sure.
But oh well, what do we think? Any other Mario games coming out this year? Like, I'm surprised. I'd be surprised if we didn't see a Super Mario Party 2.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. It didn't have DLC, the first one, and I feel like it didn't because they were just working on the sequel, because Super Mario Party sold extraordinarily well.
Yeah.
Was it 7 million, 8 million?
Yeah,
Something crazy like that.
Something like that. It was the best-selling Mario Party game in a while.
Yeah.
So they'd be crazy to not do a follow-up to that. And I also feel like a Mario Golf has got to be somewhat close. Like, I feel like it just makes sense for Camelot to do Mario Tennis, support it for a year, and just work on Mario Golf in the background, and now make that their next project.
Yeah. Tennis Aces deserves more respect. I love that game.
I really enjoyed Tennis Aces.
I played it for like 80 hours. The online portion was just really addictive.
Yeah, it had the best multiplayer. It had the best gameplay. Tennis Aces. The only thing it lacked was not having enough content at start, and its story mode being quite disappointing. I think people went into it with higher expectations than what it really was. But multiplayer-wise, it's great.
At the end, the roster was really good, but the court selection was always kind of disappointing.
But these are all problems that the golf games wouldn't have, like unless they released it with one 18-course hole. Like everything else is like it's easy. You can just literally take all the models and stuff that you already made for tennis and put them in golf. All you got to do is make like 5 or 6 18-course holes, and I think people would be happy. Maybe throw the ring shots in there as a mini game.
That'd be cool. Oh, one cool thing about Tennis Aces as well is they redid like a lot of the character designs to be in tennis attire. I'd love to see them all in golf attire this time.
They've just all got like that plaid trousers.
Yeah. Oh, just imagine Waluigi right now.
It's going to be like an HD version of the cartridge art for that game of the NES Open Tournament or whatever it is on the...
I'd be all for that. I like that aesthetic of like properly fitting into stuff instead of having them playing dungarees. It'd be nice. I really like Mario Golf, so I'd be really keen to see another one. Like it's like the 3DS ones. I think World Tour was pretty all right, whereas I didn't feel like Open was that good. Yeah, I think there's just something inherently better about the Mario golfing games. Toadstool Tour better than what's the Power Strike? What's the GameCube tennis game?
Power Smash. Am I thinking of Ultra Smash? I probably am.
I feel like
no.
I
can't remember. Mario Power Tennis was it called? I think.
Yeah.
Yes, Mario Power Tennis. It was definitely Mario Power Tennis. That was it. Like even then, Toadstool Tour I think was the better game of the two. So yeah, it's just give us Mario Golf. That's one. But again, thinking of all these Mario games that feel like they should come out this year, is that not oversaturation of Mario again? Even if we do get them in a collection, if we get Paper Mario, Mario Golf, Super Mario Party 2, then a Mario All Stars 3D all in the second half of the year, is that not too much Mario?
It is, but it's a very weird situation. I don't know if we want to talk about the Direct Mini, not so much the actual Direct Mini itself, but sort of the talk around the Direct Mini, about how it was basically kind of Nintendo clean for the most part, despite being like 30 minutes long, because it is one of those things where, I mean that's. People really want Nintendo games. It seems like it's very weird the dichotomy between like what you expect from a video game console and what Nintendo fans expect from the Switch, because it really just seems like we are getting games this year. Like technically we could kind of sit back and go, well, maybe it's not oversaturation because we do have all these third-party exclusives coming out, like Bravely Default 2 and No More Heroes 3 and Deadly Premonition 2, that will certainly be way more unique than if Nintendo were to release a new Mario spin-off, Zelda and all that. But it does actually kind of make you wonder, like, it seems like people don't really care about the third-party stuff, even when exclusive, and they just really want this. So it's a we might think it's oversaturation, but I think there actually might be a good majority of people out there that just think like, yeah, no, this is just what I wanted. I just wanted more Mario.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right.
Yeah.
If I was a publisher, I'd be terrified to announce anything right now because those plans are unlikely to come to fruition. And they even said at the start of the Direct that there was a little notice saying that the release dates aren't set in stone because of like global events.
Yeah.
So I am sure that the second half of the year is going to be more packed than the first half, and the reason for that is pretty clear.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that.
I've seen some very weird takes about the Direct Mini. I mean, like, I can't blame anyone for feeling disappointment. It's not, it's not anyone's job to control someone's opinions on something. But it is weird when I see people complain things like, oh, we didn't even get Wii U ports. And it's like, well, we did get ports, just not games you've played before.
Yeah.
Like, I think the one that annoyed me was I actually watched Arlo's video on the subject.
Oh, boy.
And like I'm perfectly fine with Arlo and stuff, but he was complaining that the Direct had no new games from Nintendo specifically. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, they announced Clubhouse Games, which was a new Nintendo game.
It looks amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
Clubhouse Games. It looks way too good for what it is.
Yeah, it was the game I was most excited about from that entire Direct was Clubhouse Games. And then it also, Good Job is also a Nintendo game. I mean, it wasn't developed in-house, but it's still a Nintendo first party technically.
I think people also missed the nuance of that, like most of those games being announced like have like the latest release date they had planned was like July. Like it's very obvious the Direct Mini was just focusing on what's coming out sooner than later. Like it as cool as it would have been for Nintendo to just be like, check it out, guys, well, bam, Kirby 2 coming, December 2020, it would be really out of place among all of these other games that are coming out in like May and June.
Yeah. I just can't put any pressure on anyone during this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no.
Things are going to get delayed. Things aren't going to happen. And I think it's very easy just to see that humans are making these games and that they currently can't really work on them.
Yeah.
So why bother announcing release dates that you can't deliver on?
It's also just like it makes sense to want to announce. Like I think it just makes more sense to announce things coming out now because. Like, sure, like, you can worry about what games are coming out later, but you don't have to because there will be games later. It's not like they're just going to be like, Nintendo's going to throw their hands up and be like, just no games ever. We're just done.
We got.
Yeah. It's like, no, like, it's probably better to be like, hey, did you know that in, like, the next 2 months you will not be bored? There's just, like, a ton of stuff coming out. Like, go ham, go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, even with that though, there are so many games to play at the moment. Lots of games have come out recently. Like with Final Fantasy VII Remake is in some people's hands. There's, we've had Dreams, we've had Ori, there's just been so much to play. Animal Crossing is still keeping everyone going. So I can't feel thirsty for games when there's just so many games to play right now.
Like every big game coming out has like a really high Metacritic score. Like Animal Crossing, Doom, and Half-Life Alyx were all 90+. And even then, you have all these companies just bringing out, like, old classics. I don't know how anyone can be like, how are there no Wii U ports? But be like, dude, it's like the Bioshock. Like, Bioshock's like a 7th-gen classic. Like, sure, it's an old game, and there's a possibility if you own a Switch, you probably own another platform. But it's like, if you're part of that ecosystem, like, of just Nintendo stuff, that's really exciting. That and Borderlands.
It's the first
and
time
XCOM.
you'll have got to try them out.
Yeah,
and I think there's something to say. Like people, even if those sort of games aren't for you, this is a time there's so many games come out constantly. I mean, the Switch has a ridiculous amount of games actually on it. That even if we're in a time where you're not interested in something like Final Fantasy VII or Animal Crossing, there's an eShop sale going on right now where I'm sure there's going to be something on there that interests you.
It's a huge sale. Like everything is incredibly discounted. It's great.
Mario's not the only 3D platformer. Zelda's not the only adventure action game. Like, there's plenty on there. You just have to actually look for it.
Yeah.
Ty the Tasmanian Devil just came out. Oh, sorry, Ty the Tasmanian
Ty the
Tiger.
Tasmanian Tiger. Damn straight it did, and I would be having that if I didn't have a million other things to play right now.
I mean, hell, the Direct Mini had like what 3 shadow drops? Like that's insane. There's video games. It's wacky.
Yeah, if you want a new Metroid game, play Subnautica for now, whatever it was called, the Capcom one. Like,
actually, Nan, I just opened up my Switch just to look at something, and you know they have that little news thing on the side.
Yeah.
It had a post from Nintendo of America talking about Metroidvania games.
Oh, I've seen that post on our one where they actually use the Metroidvania.
Yeah, that's wild to see. That's really.
But there'll be no Metroid or Castlevania games in the post.
yeah, really.
It is the canonical genre now.
It's insane.
But yeah, I get so just to jump back to Mario, I guess the rumors also state that there's more than just Mario games to be announced. We'd also hear stuff about the movie, and then obviously the theme park, which was meant to open this summer in Japan, which I guess we'll see. Yeah. I mean, Japan's in a weird place right now where they've been kind of ignoring the virus until really recently, where I think a really famous comedian, I don't know if this was the actual trigger, but a really famous comedian died from it. And since that happened, like a week later, Japan suddenly started putting lockdown stuff in place. And started banning people from coming into the country. That was it. Shinsekai, not Subnautica. That was the Capcom game. But anyway, yeah. But so I'm curious how this will go and whether they would delay the opening of the theme park.
I mean, the plan was to open around the time of the Olympics to get tourists in, and that doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah.
Another
so maybe
year
it gets
of not
delayed
being
a year.
able to get an Airbnb in Japan. But
hey, maybe as part of this Mario stuff, there's going to be 2021 in the Olympic Games DLC.
There was actually a theme park in New Jersey that was supposed to open like 2 weeks ago. Yikes! Like
yikes!
That's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate timing.
That is, yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what I expect from the Mario movie though. Like, it seems too early to show a trailer because it's still 2 years away. I guess they can announce the voice cast. Like, would they have Charles Martinet as Mario? Because it is always weird when he speaks in full sentences.
Yeah, I feel like they wouldn't just to have that celebrity stuff. It's like with the Sonic movie, they didn't have.
I'm glad someone else
Roger Craig Smith or whatever, whoever Sonic's game voice actor is.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't he wasn't Sonic in the movie? Yeah, it's Roger Craig Smith. Yeah. So he wasn't the voice of Sonic in the movie.
Right. Like, Charles Martinet is great. He's iconic. I can't imagine anyone else as Mario. But it's just so weird when he babbles on for minutes and minutes in Mario's voice.
I remember, oh my god, when those 20 GBA games came out for like the Ambassador program. And I booted up Mario versus Donkey Kong for the first time, and it's just oh, you mamma mia, and I'm like, what is going? It's like a fever dream. Same thing with the opening cutscenes
in the Mario Advance games.
The opening of
There's a voice for everything. Like,
so
oh no, mamma mia, just what I needed.
Well, I think WarioWare, where he does full voices for Wario in the 3DS one, where it's all voice acted.
That kind of worked, I think. That kind of worked for Wario, but I don't know if it would work for Mario. Though.
I think it's because Wario's more like Saturday morning villain than Mario, who's just catchphrase man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I'm wondering what they show off, because you're right, it's maybe a little early. Maybe they'll show like a very early preview of what the Mario model will look like. Maybe like a very like a white blank screen with a minion or something, because that studio, and then Mario coming in
for scale.
And doing something like that. But yeah, because they said it seems as part of this rumors they were going to talk about it. Apparently around E3 time was when this was all going to be announced, and now they're reconsidering it all. Some people have said that it's going to come between now and June, the Mario announcements, which I guess I could see. Could see it being some sort of May Mario Direct event where they just announce and drop all of this stuff.
Yeah,
maybe
but I
late
assume
May.
if the theme park stuff is getting delayed, that might put a damper on everything.
Yeah, they may just have to like cut that part out, or maybe just show off a trailer for the rides and with a new launch date or something.
Yeah, but it's also, I mean, it's also just really hard to tell with Nintendo and stuff, because there was that gaff by Game UK that said like, oh yeah, in the latest Direct they announced the Lego thing, even though that does not seem like a Direct announcement in any universe.
Yeah,
well,
Nintendo are very specific about what goes into a Direct. Like stuff like Ring Fit Adventure, that was just a tweet. I think they just put the video out there after the tease, and they generally don't put things like Lego in Directs, so I didn't buy that either.
Yeah.
Although it's meant to be, I guess, other Mario initiatives as well alongside the movie. Like we got the Lego stuff, which has already been announced, and the what's the brand? The clothes brand?
Oh, Levi.
Right.
Levi Mario stuff, which, by the way, looks god awful.
It does. It really
looks
does.
very tacky.
Understand this, why people like clothes where it's just loads of copy paste images just overlapping each other. I just don't get behind that.
But Nan, I love Uniqlo. What are you talking about?
But there's also meant to be more of that coming out. We're going to see a lot more Mario, and I'm just wondering what else they could do. Are we going to be seeing like Mario books? Is this the return of adventure game books? Because the Lego is clearly gamifying Lego to have Mario stuff in it. Like it's clear you're meant to do like proper make your own sort of Mario courses, and then with the really scary looking Mario Lego, hop around and jump on stuff and get coins. I'm guessing that because they haven't announced it, the Levi clothes don't have any game functionality in them.
They just have a little NFC chip in them, like you just press the switch against your chest or something.
I put a Joy-Con in the pocket or something.
Yeah, put one Joy-Con in the back pocket, one on the side.
Oh, maybe. Oh my God! Imagine if like the Levi Mario overalls have a little pocket, so you can use that like on your shin, so you can use that instead of the little ankle brace that comes with the Ring Fit. That's big brain. That's big brain.
Download the Mario Levi app on your Switch.
Remember when they released Mario Cereal that was also an amiibo?
Like, right?
And it was super okay. Like it was.
What other Mario related stuff could we be seeing from this? I'm really curious. Like Mario Adventure game books or something.
Oh God, that's a good question.
They used to do them. I've got some of them, and they were okay, I guess. But it'd be interesting to see that trend return.
So much Mario.
Mm-hmm.
Mario Top Trumps. Mario trading card game.
I hope they remake that
Flood
Mario 3
the stores of
commercial
Mario.
from the 80s, where they just have all the people dressed up in shirts that create the Mario head, and they're just screaming, Mario! Just like repeatedly. Anyone know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although this isn't exactly the right time to be showing a trailer where everyone is crowded together in one spot outside.
They're all 6 feet apart from each other. Different colored hazmat suits.
They could do like Mario adult toys. That's a gap in the
market.
No.
You got to aim for every demographic. Mario is a blue ocean strategy.
We're doing a team up with. I'm not even going to say anything.
Doing a team up with Victoria's Secret.
That's a lot less risque than what I was going to say, but we'll keep it there. We'll keep it there.
Yeah.
Hi, Nintendo of America. Please give us more review codes.
But yeah, yeah. Those are all the Mario rumors. We spent a lot of time on that. I don't know if there are actually any other rumors about right now. Any ones that are worth talking about. Anyway,
this is not a rumor, but this popped up recently. Speaking of my my favorite Wii U game, which is our friends over, our friends in quotations, over at Nintendo of America, Nintendo Everything, asked series producer of Fatal Frame, "What's up? What's going on right now?" And basically, the entire interview boiled down to, "We're working on a movie, and Nintendo has the rights, so it's up to them." So basically, we're back at square one with the Fatal Frame franchise. I really
Yeah,
do
and-
hope it comes back. I like it. It's very clear, like, Fatal Frame 5 was made with, like, 6 people tops, and, like, it shows, but I like it. Just, like, bring it back, you know?
Mhm.
I think it's one of the games that would benefit the most from a Switch port. Like, even if it's just on the eShop, it's the same game, basically. I think it has a bigger install base, and there might be more people willing to try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That
good,
I
though.
reason?
often see people say that it can't come to Switch because of the dual screens, but I'm pretty sure like it was just the camera on the screen. Why can't you overlay that on the TV screen?
So,
Yeah.
I would say Fatal Frame 5 is very similar to Star Fox Zero, where it's very Wii U gamepad centric, to the point where you could probably just play with the gamepad and the gamepad alone, because like it just mirrored whatever the top screen was doing, unless you were in the camera obscura mode.
Right.
So they could just do that. It would be the same game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a good one.
The interview specifically asks if they would bring over the remaster of 2 and the 4th game that they made for the Wii, which would be fantastic because we didn't get it over here. But yeah,
Right.
again, that's Nintendo's call. So everyone email Nintendo and tell them.
Is it Nintendo's call for the first few Fatal Frame games as well now? Or
That's a
They
really
have the
good
entire
question.
franchise, don't they?
That's what I
They
thought.
technically co-own all of Fatal Frame, but it seems like it might be a situation where they're just totally in charge of new releases.
Yeah, because I have this feeling that the original or the second Fatal Frame or whatever came out on a non-Nintendo system within the last decade, which was after Nintendo obviously picked it up as like it wasn't like a HD re-release. It's like more released on like I don't know the PS4 store or something. And I remember having that same thought of being like, "Wait, I thought Nintendo owned this. What?" And then someone was saying to me,
you can buy Fatal Frame
that-
1 through 3 on like the PS3.
Yeah,
That's about it.
"Okay, I thought there was something else. Maybe maybe they're thinking that far back in time."
Yeah.
Because I don't quite know when Nintendo grabbed the license for Fatal Frame.
I can't even play Fatal Frame 2 on my Xbox. Bullshit. Shenanigans.
I want to release the first 3 games on Switch on an eShop and just see how it does like that.
Yeah.
If they can do it. I mean, Switch is
Just do
the
anything.
port machine.
I mean, it really sucks because I was just lamenting like, please stop doing these ports. But like, I don't know. I feel like there is like a degree of games that deserve second chances more than other games. Like 3D World is great. I love it, but in a perfect world, I probably would like. I'm glad they ported Tokyo Mirage Sessions before 3D World because that's like way more deserving of a second chance.
Although they still released it at a really awkward time of the year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it still didn't really get a
every
second
game's now
chance.
releasing at an awkward time of the year.
Well, but yeah. All right then. I guess the last thing on our agenda today was to talk about April Fools because that was this last week, and it's always an interesting time to see companies coming out with jokes. Sometimes these jokes are stuff we actually want, and sometimes it's better than what they're actually doing.
Do we?
But
wanna
this year
talk
was
about
a strange year where a lot of places decided not to do April Fools because of what was happening around, which I totally understand.
Do we want to talk
But
about
didn't stop all of them. So
the April Fool?
the April Fool.
The April Fool? The one that got all of us? Or at least had all of us involved? Not involved like we were
right.
behind it, but we
The
gave it
that's-
attention.
The one that I wouldn't consider an April Fool's.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Flipnote, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, we can talk about Flipnote briefly. I think that's the quintessential way to not do an April Fool's.
Yeah.
Because if it's coming out before the actual date, it's not an April Fool's. You can't
Just a
lie
lie.
yeah. It's
way
be
they
like me
handled that-
lying to someone and then 3 days later being like, "Lol, I was kidding."
I don't want to give the people who made this too much shit because they're already getting enough of it, and like,
Sure.
I'm sure they're nice people, but like I don't want to throw any shade at anyone during this like pandemic because I think the worst thing someone can do is feel like shit when they can't leave their house and they're just kind of bottled up. So, you know, we don't want to stoke any drama. But I do love that they brought up, they were like, oh, well, we made those fake screenshots for like a Discord server, and like we thought it was like a little goof that wouldn't take off. But it's like the Nintendo like armchair speculist, like the armchair analyst Nintendo community is like so rabid for any information, no matter what, that like it was guaranteed to be picked up and carried around by literally everyone.
Right. What I found sketchy from the first moment was like where it came from. All I heard was Discord, and whenever you hear something's come from Discord, it's like, okay, there's not really a source on this then. But yeah, I mean, it's just disappointing because this is something that people really wanted, and it was just it's kind of a dick move just to do it way before April Fools.
I think what also doesn't help was that they were trying to be like, look, guys, it's Nintendo's entire 2020 lineup in Flipnote drawings.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
Yeah,
what is this? Like,
yeah, Mario Odyssey 2, Skyward Sword remake, putting Chibi Robo back on things.
Yeah.
I feel like as more pictures of that came out, I started to think it got fake and fake, because the original, like the actual leaks, we obviously analysed it. I woke up one morning to messages from Triss and Cody being like, we should do a video on this. Cody's translated it all, and it was like all perfect and stuff like this. And I'm sitting there in bed like, all right, fine, give me like 5 minutes. I can get up, just go straight to my microphone.
We should mention that we privated that video, and it wasn't because it turned out to be fake, and we're just like, oh, damn it, we got fooled. It was actually because the narrative had changed like the day or two before April Fools, that it was part of a server breach.
Right.
Along with some Pokemon music, because there was also an April Fools of Pokemon DLC music leak. But again, this was like before April Fools. So
that one I'm sort of weird on, because it came out, I think it was April Fools in Japan, but it wasn't anywhere else. Like literally, like the second it hit midnight in Japan, this channel was like, oh, I've got this from a server breach, blah, 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 blah. But it's not a Japanese channel. It's
that is like
American
the most
one.
like Valhalla ready to die way of being like, yup, let's get sued, everyone. So we basically just, you know, we didn't really want to get sued, and we might list the video again, just with some disclaimers and stuff, but
I don't know. We'll just see. But I mean,
it's all old hat now, so whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
The original narrative behind it was simply that someone at Nintendo was demoing or not demoing it, but testing the game, showed a friend screenshots, and then they shared the screenshots with someone else via Discord, and that's how it got out.
At least it wasn't a shaky screen capture. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it is a very well done leak. There's only one flaw in the entire leak, and that's that in one of the buttons they use hiragana instead of kanji, and it's been used as kanji in every other version of Flipnote. But it's such a minor difference that could also be seen as a very easy change. Like, it's much easier to read it when it's in hiragana than in kanji.
Yeah.
That it wasn't enough to disprove it. But yeah, it was an April Fool's, and it was a bad April Fool's because it wasn't on April Fool's Day. So, yeah.
We did get a little bit of a views boost on that Gift Pia Game in Fact video we did a while back. which
the second they dropped the Gift Pia stuff up, that's when it started to become fake. I mean, Skip is in a weird place right now where no one knows if they're alive or dead.
Right.
And it's strange, and I don't want to take up too much time by talking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't be expecting anything Gift Peer related coming up ever.
Jump Beat Shoots in the chat says he didn't like FDG's joke, and that was the Quackshot remake.
Yeah, that one. Rough.
That was just mean. You look at it and you know it's fake because it was posted on April 1st, but it looks so good, and I want this so bad.
Apparently, it was part of a pitch. Like, those were real images they had made for a Quackshot remake, and they pitched it to Disney, and they turned it down. And they were just like, yeah, we just thought this would be a funny way to share this. Haha, XD. But it's like, I think those are the worst April Fool's jokes, are the ones where it's like, wow, we put all this effort into a thing that you want. It's like,
Yeah, not
That
real.
sucks.
I mean, I'm willing to take it if it's something completely ludicrous, like the Box Boy fighting
Yeah,
game.
the box fight.
The
That's
Box Boy
cute.
beat him
It's
up.
like, whatever.
He's like, I would want that as a game, but it's so completely out of there and ludicrous that it's obviously April Fool's, and I'm not mad that they've made this up.
Also, I'm glad all of us Nintendo sites, well, at least a good chunk of us Nintendo sites, all had the same joke with talking about the CDI games in any respect. As we, as Nintendo Life did, like, oh yeah, they're gonna add the CDI games as part of the 35th anniversary collection, and we did a retrospective video on Zelda CDI, which
the Zelda retrospective
series.
series.
Matt held a pistol up to my face and said, "Tell them it's not a joke." So don't worry. Go watch that video. It's not a joke. I feel like that goes without saying, though, because we've now done April Fool's videos 2 years in a row, and I mean, even that Paul McCartney one was barely a joke. It was just a stretch. Like,
yeah.
Rad VG says, was the Mario 3D remasters a joke?
No.
I think just because that came from so many like actual outlets, no.
It also wasn't on April Fool's when that dropped.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if it was a joke, I think people would have admitted that it was a joke on April Fool's. Or actually, no, then again, maybe they wouldn't have, because that would have been the bigger backlash than what the Flipnote one got.
Cody asks, has there ever been an instance where an April Fool's announcement got so big that the game actually got made? And the answer is yes, and it just happened. Way Forward made that something without salad game. That was an
Cat Girl Without Salad.
Yeah, that was an April Fool's joke last year, and they just made a real video game of it that you can buy on
so
the
it was
eShop.
it was already a real video game, but it just wasn't available on anything but Steam, I want to say.
Oh,
because we actually reviewed it when it first came out.
Oh, really?
On Steam ages ago, yeah.
Whoa.
Push reviewed it. But originally that was an April Fool's joke that they then made into a real game on Steam only, and then it just disappeared from consciousness, and that's why they rebrought it back now on the Switch.
I think there's a few of
because
those.
it wasn't
I know,
started as April Fool's. Yeah.
ThinkGeek did that for a long time, where they had these April Fool product announcements that were very obviously like ploys for people to give them money to eventually make these things anyway.
April Fool's Day is like the best day to leak something, like leak an actual thing that's happening. Like, just have the entire Smash roster out there. No one's going to believe you.
Yeah, that's. I mean, those are always really funny to find when you find like a 4chan post that has the exact thing and no one's believed it for ages.
Froggy
like,
from Sonic's and Smash.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's just like you got Froggies in there, Kiddy Kong's in there as an echo of Donkey Kong. So,
speaking of Smash, can we now say that like Kako Mallow is just not real?
I mean, it's still up in the air.
It's still up in the air, but like, damn. That's fighter 5 and 6 down. So
yeah.
I mean, who knows? Although I do really want a Doom, even if it's just Doom. I just want Doom music in Smash. I think that's the thing I'm more about. So if you get Doomfighter Mii costume, do Mii Gunner, even though they're all been Mii Gunners so far.
Yeah,
I'd be up for that. Just come with Rip and Tear main theme. Oh no, Gates to Hell, is that the classic Doom theme? Oh,
it's
Colin,
just,
what is it?
It's in Doom's Gate.
At
Doomsgate.
At Doomsgate.
I just call it E1M1. That's just like the really familiar.
But yeah, are there any other April Fools I mean, you guys did at Game Explain Panzer Dragoon DLC.
We did Phazon Dragoon.
Yeah, Phazon Dragoon, which I'm kind of curious, was this planned before Panzer Dragoon actually launched?
It was, yeah. So we've got a 3D animator who did the Animal Crossing intro and some other stuff like that. And we basically bring him out for April Fool's Day. So last year we had Captain Falcon Space Adventure. And this year was, Phazon Dragoon. And, I mean, no one's going to believe it. No one bought this rumor. But it was just fun to put together.
Well, those are always like my favorite April Fools. My most memorable one is when IGN randomly released a Legend of Zelda movie trailer.
Oh, yeah.
That was like a live action one, like a classic 2005, 2006 April Fool's joke. And
Homestar Runner
that's
has like the monopoly of really good April Fool's bits, but I think they just stopped doing them because like they have that one year where they basically deconstruct April Fool's jokes, and it's like this like great biting satire of it's the day the internet goes on the internet to make inside jokes about the internet. It's like, oh no, they went in.
Actually, my favorite April Fool's joke was not a gaming related one, but it was actually from the BBC, funnily enough. And one year during the news, they just randomly did a report about footage of penguins flying, captured for the first time in hundreds of years.
That's great.
And it's just it's like 5-minute video of penguins just flying around the Arctic. They just dropped it in the middle of a news story.
That's amazing. I haven't seen this.
It was just I remember seeing it on TV when it happened, and because I love penguins, and I was like, oh wow, well that's so cool. And then remembering what day it was, and my dad just like sitting there laughing about it. That's a good joke. Those are the good ones, but there's so many bad ones nowadays in April Fools.
I like how companies like Google just they had like the one April Fool's joke that's just so bad they just stopped doing them forever. Like what was it? I think the one that made
drop
them
the
stop...
mic.
Yeah,
drop
with the drop the mic minion one. It's like it's so bad. Like how can
yeah.
That's also I hate anything that like interrupts productivity or whatever the hell you're doing. I think Clone Hero did one where like if it's April 1st, like the track just starts like freaking out and just starts shaking rapidly and stuff, and you have to put in like a cheat code to stop it. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm just not gonna play Clone Hero today. I'm just not gonna deal with it. Like that's annoying. I liked Call of Duty's April Fool's thing because it was more kind of tongue in cheek. There's this one map in the game that everyone hates called Piccadilly, and 2 months ago, someone on Reddit just was like, there was like an AMA with the devs, and they were like, so is the April Fool's joke gonna be 24/7 Piccadilly? And the response was done. So and then so on April 1st there was just this playlist that was just called I Have Trust Issues, and the description was it's shipment. It's just shipment. Don't worry, guys. It's just a shipment playlist. And it was just Piccadilly 24/7.
That's amazing.
I love stuff like that. That's cute. That's harmless. That's just a good goof, you know?
Yeah. Oh well. Any other April Fool's joke that we want to highlight?
I think that's really about it.
Yeah, it's kind of a light year.
Yeah.
Well, I think it comes to the end of our scheduled talking stuff. So if there's anything else, John, if there's anything you really want to talk about that we haven't.
I mean, I can barely remember this week, so I think we've covered most of what I want to talk about. So yeah, thank you for having me on, by the way. It's been really fun for this.
I know, I'm glad you had fun. It's always nice to chat with you and discuss all the latest games and stuff like that. It's good.
All right. As always, links down below. I think we'll did we update the links? Because I was asleep when we
I did.
All right, cool, thanks. Links down below to our Twitters. Donate to our Patreon. We know it's tough times, but if you feel like you want to support us, that's the best way to do so. Our Discord is down below as well. Thoughts on Cooking Mama? LOL. It's really all we got, because that's a mess.
Cooking Mama, yeah, that's a strange get. That's a strange thing what they've done to that series.
And
play it on the DS.
Thank you all for joining us, and remember to return to the source and all that good stuff. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.